It was the sound of their laughter that did it, a sharp, performative bark from my mother, a hollow echo from my father. It was a sound meant to fill a silence that guilt could never touch. "A little Christmas gift for each of you," my grandfather had said, his voice a low rumble as he slid 3 white envelopes across the polished mahogany. "It's just for show," my mom said, rolling her eyes. My dad joined in, as if mocking the man who built our world was a family sport. I didn't laugh. I just looked at my grandfather, Edmund Hale. I saw the way his knuckles, weathered and strong from a lifetime of real work, rested on the table for a beat too long. I saw the faint light in his wise, old eyes dim, just a fraction. He had built an empire on investments and land, a fortune so quiet it didn't need to brag, and they treated his offering like a party trick. So I did the only thing that felt true. I smiled, a small, private thing just for him, slipped my envelope into my coat pocket, and said, "Thank you." That simple act of grace was a spark in a room full of kerosene. The next morning, the banker's call cleaved my world in two. "Your deposit has cleared, Ms. Hale." The number, with its 5 silent zeros, wasn't the shock. The shock was the phone call that followed, my mother's voice, sharp and fractured. "The bank said ours were stopped. They said yours went through." The war had begun, and I hadn't even known I was enlisted. This wasn't the first time I had witnessed love turn transactional. My parents, Victor and Elaine, were architects of appearance. They lived in a gilded cage of their own construction, hosting charity brunches and posing with new cars, forever chanting the mantra, "We've worked so hard for this life." The unspoken truth? The foundation of that life was poured by my grandfather, the man they performed for and secretly resented. I was the outlier. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, building my interior design business client by client, with nothing but my laptop and my will. To them, it was humble. To me, it was honest. The summons came 2 days later, a single card in my grandfather's firm script. Dinner. Saturday. 7 p.m. The stage was set once more in his dining room. The same crystal glasses, the same scent of pine and roasted duck. But the air was now laced with a cold, metallic tension. My mother's smile was a brittle mask. My father's jaw was clenched tight. Grandpa entered, not with a greeting, but with a verdict. He placed a thin stack of papers on the table. "You'll each find your names there," he said, his voice the calm at the eye of the storm. "Bank statements from this morning." "Why?" my father demanded, his voice cracking. "If this was a test, it's cruel." Grandpa's gaze, heavy with a lifetime of disappointment, settled on them. "Cruel would be letting you keep thinking respect is optional." He turned his eyes to me, and in that look, I saw the entire, painful truth of our family. "When you laughed at a gift I offered, you laughed at the years that built it. You thought." He paused, letting the word hang in the air like a verdict. "She felt." Then he delivered the blow, not with anger, but with the sorrow of a king dismantling his own corrupted court. He turned to me. "Amelia." "Yes, Grandpa. I've transferred full control of the trust and properties to your name." The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the crackle of the fireplace. My mother crumpled, her cries those of shattered entitlement. My father stood, his knuckles white on the chair. "You're rewarding her for doing nothing!" And for the first time that night, my grandfather's voice rose, not in a shout, but in a clear, resonant peal that shook the very foundations of the house. "She did everything. She listened. She respected. She didn't laugh." He looked at them, his heartbreak finally visible. "Now I know who's real." After they stormed out, the slamming of the door a final punctuation to their reign, Grandpa returned with 2 bowls of soup. We ate in a silence that was more understanding than any conversation we'd ever had. "You didn't cash it for the money, did you?" he asked softly. I shook my head. "No. I just didn't want to disrespect you." A faint, proud smile touched his lips. "That's what I thought. People show you who they are when they think they're above gratitude." He leaned back. "This wasn't to prove a point, Amelia. It was to protect what's left of decency in this family." Before I left, he gave me another envelope. Inside was not a check, but a single sentence written in his steady hand. A legacy is not what you leave for someone, but what you leave in them. I drove home through the quiet, falling snow. The world outside was hushed, and for the first time, the war inside me was over. I hadn't won a fortune. I had answered a call, a quest I never knew I was on. The quest wasn't for wealth, but for worth. It was a test of character set by the king of our realm, and I had passed not by fighting, but by simply remaining true. The money was just a tool. The real inheritance was the unshakable knowledge that in a family built on a facade, my grandfather and I had found something real. And that is a treasure no one can ever stop or take away. Now I turn to you, the listener. This is my past quest story. The silent test, the chosen heir, the legacy of character over currency. What about you? Have you ever been on a quest you didn't know you were taking? Did you have to stand alone in a room full of noise, armed with nothing but your quiet truth? Was there a moment when you were tested not on what you could achieve, but on who you fundamentally were? And when you passed, what did you discover you had truly inherited? Share your story. Tell me about the quest that found you, and the person you became when you answered the call.